All right, well, folks, let's get underway then, and thank you very much for attending this webinar, which I think will be really interesting to you. As you know, Indigenous Works, under its Luminary initiative, has been working in the area of Indigenous agriculture, and our whole effort is really to better understand how communities can benefit from the good work that's taking place in research centers across the country. And Indigenous people have an opportunity to really grow their economies and well-being through research, which is really an important thing that we're talking about. Now, today, though, of course, we've been working in this area of agriculture. We're seeing so many opportunities for new products, new services, and new business and economic growth. And in process of looking across the country and south of the border, we came across this group, the Intertribal Agricultural Council, and we've invited some members of that group to talk to you today about their work that they've been doing in the last couple of decades or so. And you'll see the relevance, I'm sure, for the Canadian Indigenous agricultural sector very, very immediately. And we'll have a chance to talk to the two representatives and learn a little bit more about their day-to-day work and their programs and that sort of thing. So my name is Craig Hall, and I'm with Indigenous Works. We've helped put this on, and want to welcome our two guests. I'm speaking to you from Mi'kma'ki, which is the traditional and unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq people in Canada's eastern coast. And we've been really privileged to spend a lot of time in the Indigenous agriculture sector to learn about the many opportunities there today. So we have in the presenters two people, Letitia Redhouse and Tommy Peterson. Letitia is the director, and Tommy is her title is Regenerative Economies Specialist. And I think they both they wear many, many hats in the course of their work. So I'm going to turn this presentation over to them. I believe there is a PowerPoint, isn't there, Micheline? And if not, they'll just speak to what they're doing on a day-to-day basis. But we've been so impressed as we've talked to these folks who will tell a little bit more about their background and their positions and their work. But we see such relevance for what's happening in Canada or what could happen in Canada. So without much further ado, and my pardon for perhaps an informal introduction, but if I could turn it over to Letitia and Tommy, that would be most gratifying. Thank you.
Yes, good afternoon, good morning, or even good night. I'm not sure where everyone is calling from, but I really appreciate this opportunity to share the amazing initiatives that we have going on through the Intertribal Agriculture Council and the American Indian Foods Program. But yeah, a quick introduction. Yes, Letitia Redhouse. I am with the IAC as the American Indian Foods Program Director. I work remote from Utah, where the snow is great, just not lately because it's been melting and it's been warming up great, nicely, which is wonderful. I can't complain about that. But I will go ahead and pass it over to Tommy, and she can go ahead and kick us off.
Hi everybody. My name is Tommy Peterson, and I work for Intertribal Agriculture as a Regenerative Economy Specialist. I will kick us off by sharing the presentation. You can all see that, right?
Yes.
Okay. So the Intertribal Agriculture Council was founded back in 1987. IAC, as we call it, is a national 501c3, or what we call a national nonprofit. It supports all federally recognized Native American tribes and Alaska Natives to pursue and promote the conservation, the development, and use of our agricultural resources for the betterment of our people. Our mission is to provide a unified effort to promote change in Indian agriculture for the benefit of Indian people. And to fulfill our mission, we have a variety of programming. To start off, the IAC created a young adults program as a response to the growing concern of the age gap in the agriculture industry. It is important that the young adults be placed as a priority, as they will be the next generation to uphold Indian country. We also have a natural resources programming. It is working to further enhance the stewardship of Native American lands by providing improved access to conservation, planning, technical assistance, management resources, and useful land stewardship tools. We also have a policy in government relations. IAC sees that we need to have a dedicated presence in Washington, D.C. And we also have a what's called the Native Farm Bill Coalition, which means that the Native voice is always heard during the Farm Bill rounds, which is a very big part in the US because the Farm Bill only comes around every few years and is influential in the United States agriculture industry. On top of that, the backbone of all of IAC effort is ultimately relies on trusted technical assistance networks. They provide technical assistance and they understand the local conditions. So we have these technical assistants in every one of these regions, and they are our boots on the ground supporters to our everyday producers. They understand what's happening with the markets, their economy, with the weather and the environment in all these areas, and able to provide not only feedback, but also assistance to these producers in the various levels that we are able to help them. If I speak more about my job specifically, IAC started promoting what's called a regenerative economy. We realized that we need to be able to have the entire picture involved and able to solve the problems that we face. So we want to have a regenerative economy where Native producers and businesses are given access to tools and knowledge they need, providing a financing structure that supports their efforts and endeavors, and then also market opportunities that generate long-term profits. So my ultimate goal is to be able to look at a producer and be able to help them in every aspect when they're starting a business and be able to pull in every other piece to be able to be successful. A big piece of this is that access to capital. The whole time we're needing to have capital to start these businesses, then also for them to continue to grow. And that growth is also done by when we're able to promote the market development side. We're going to talk a lot about our American Indian Foods program next, and that is where we provide opportunities and develop successful pathways for producers to take into the local, the regional, and even the global marketplace. And I can kick it off to Latasha.
Great, thank you so much, Tommy. And I think it was important for us to kick off with a kind of a visual and understanding of our organization, because all of our program do work in sync. Within the American Indian Foods program, Tommy's program, Natural Resources program, Technical Assistance Network, we all work in sync to try to support producers who are involved in their local food sovereignty efforts, or they're trying to build local market access, regional market access, national market access, and then international market access. So the American Indian Foods is designed to promote a market made and produced by American Indian trademarked goods. I'll cover the trademark and how that works, again, as an umbrella over all of American Indian Foods programming. So the American Indian Foods offers an export program that we receive, where we are in partnership with the United States Department of Agriculture's Foreign Ag Service. So we receive a funding from them to help with our international programming, market assessments, market research. And one of the focus points in that export program is this conversation around indigenous to indigenous trade. We really want to help elevate the voices of other indigenous communities across the world, while also showcasing and elevating the producers in our American Indian Foods program. We also have the Native Food Connection program, the trademark, and the Regen Nation Pledge. Next slide. So what's really unique about the Intertribal Agriculture Council, or at least this American Indian Foods program, we recognize, or we assist all 574 plus and growing federally recognized tribes. In 2017, there was a census that was done that identified there are 70,000 Native owned operations, whether that's farming, ranching, aquaculture, all across the US. And that there are 3.54 billion worth of farm and ranch products within Indian country. And knowing that there is these opportunities and room for growth, we are really focused on providing that hand-holding or guidance or technical assistance to help producers really develop their food economy, again, whether that is local or on a national scale or globally. Next slide. With, again, like I mentioned, we receive USDA FAS market access programs, so our members participate in a lot of international activities. Our members just recently attended the Gulf Food Trade Show out in Dubai. We participated in a trade mission in the Middle East. We're looking at attending a trade show in Seoul, or in Canada, in April, which is called the Seoul Canada Show. So these shows, we're able to amplify and really showcase the different diverse products we promote, or that we get to promote on a daily. We have attended inbound and reverse trade missions. So again, just really providing coordination with qualified buyers, offering interpreter assistance, and just general show support. One of the unique things through this opportunity is that we provide almost 100% reimbursement for our producers or our companies that participate in these events. We understand that the biggest hurdle is financial access or access to capital. And we know that the challenges of attending these trade shows would be money. So we offer scholarships that help our producers get to these shows, that really broadens their, again, just their global reach. Next slide. We developed the Native Food Connection. That's the second kind of programming under American Indian Foods as a response to the pandemic. As we were noticing supply chain disruptions, businesses were shutting down. There was just this stall, and a lot of producers didn't know how to pivot. And so this was kind of a response where we wanted to ensure that our producers continued their business developments, but also ensuring that our Native communities were receiving traditional and healthy foods. Because during the pandemic, we noticed that there were empty shelves, especially in Indigenous communities, where the travel time to a grocery store or a retailer is a long distance. And so we really wanted to build a program where we can help support those traditional and healthy food access in Indian country. And so this was our response. And through the Native Food Connection, we also worked with Native American chefs to provide educational resources and try to showcase just how easy these Native American foods or traditional foods can be incorporated into daily use. And we really wanted to expand public awareness, leading to new market opportunities for tribal producers, while reframing that growing Native culinary movement. Some of our major activities during this time was building our own Native Food Connection boxes, where we sourced ingredients directly from producers in our program, and we delivered that across Indian country. We featured Native products in Native organizations or sponsored conferences. There was a ton of virtual conferences that were held these past 2 years that we were able to partner with that supported for more effective branding and outreach. Next slide. So the IAC trademark is what we term it, but it's the Made Produced by American Indian trademark. This is our sole kind of umbrella of how we, again, kind of vet producers that participate in our program. This trademark has been around since 1993, and the mission is to improve the producer's market success by increasing the economic base of the Indian producer and their community. And through this universal emblem, consumers are able to easily identify authentic American Indian produced goods. We all know that there is this misrepresentation that is happening. And so it's been a great time for our producers to really showcase that their products are unique, high value, premium products, but also are authentically Native American made. And so most of our producers do apply stickers to their packaging, or they apply the symbol directly onto their product. But again, it's just a way that we can add value to these amazing products. Next slide. Oh, maybe I didn't. Go ahead. I can go back to that. Sorry, maybe I didn't add the slide there, but oh, is it there now? Nope. Okay, that's fine. It was just I wanted to show like a little graph that shares the made and produced by American trademark and how there has been spin-offs throughout the year, whether it was like organic or sustainable. But again, the trademark has been around for so long that it is really well known in the US. And we're really trying to educate consumers on an international scale about the trademark and what it represents. The beauty of the trademark is that we get to represent a huge range of products. So we have maple syrup, wild rice, kombucha, collagen drinks, barbecue sauce, a bunch of value-added products, but also raw commodities, which include like soybeans, wheat, hay. I just feel like it's just a really valuable tool. But I will go ahead and pass it on to Tommy to kind of share information about our regenerative seal and how that amplifies the storytelling aspect of traditional ecological knowledge.
All righty. So our trademark is a great tool, but we also wanted to make something that complements it, that distinguishes our producers that are acting in a sustainable, holistic, climate smart, whatever term that someone's using nowadays, the new word, which the new one was regenerative. We wanted to be able to claim that because we call ourselves the original land stewards, are a lot of our producers, and we want to be able to promote them and tell their story in a unique way. So we started the Regen Nation, which is a seal and then and a pledge that the producers take be a part of it. And we wanted it to be able to encompass all of our producers, from our commercial seafood to the commercial beef and livestock to commercial grains to our value-added customers as well. Our harvesters are harvesting natural berries and wildlife as well. So we took it a broad approach, but it is very specific to our values and to the wisdom that we have in our so we are promoting that. We started that on Earth Day of 2021, so last year, and we're taking that forward because we do want to be the voice, our producer to be the voice to sustainable agriculture, or what some people call climate smart agriculture. And also, just to give you guys a little bit more information, in our jobs, we do look at the markets and do economic analysis. And we had a lot of time to sit around during the pandemic, so we were doing a little more research. But I can provide just a couple notes on what consumer trends are looking like for the future. Coming out of this pandemic, the one thing you're going to see from the everyday consumer is that convenience is key. Consumers are craving the convenience of the pre-pandemic world, and businesses are under pressure to rapidly adapt their operations, to develop a resilient customer experience while maintaining convenience. The second biggest trend that was probably already relevant but grew rapidly because of the pandemic is the business perception. Consumers demand that companies care beyond revenue, and they no longer perceive businesses as profit-driven entities. Protecting the health and interest of society and the planet is now the new expectation. So that's just a little bit of the consumer trends going forward.
Real quick, I did want to mention that that digital movement has also helped with our efforts within American Indian Foods in our communication with international buyers, and then just trying to develop plans to enter the international marketplace. Although global initiatives have been more challenging because we rely heavily on in-person events like trade shows or in-person trade missions, we are continuing to heavily utilize digital tools to communicate and attract global consumers. And so it's been an important marketing tool moving forward. One of the things I forgot to include in this presentation is the trademark directory. Oh, there it is. The trademark directory, you can visit that at www.indianagfoods.org. You can take a look at all of the different producers in our program. And then you could look out for the Regen Nation seal placed on each of those producers' profiles. That signifies that that producer is actively involved or have made steps, the initial steps to begin regenerative agriculture. And I think that Regen Nation seal is just one step that we can reclaim the regenerative, again, like Tommy had mentioned, any of those claims, but share it in our more native centric or focused, using our natives' wisdom and traditional knowledge. But overall, that's American Indian Foods in a gist. I feel like no matter what barriers our producers are experiencing, whether it's trying to develop a logo or create brochures or trying to enter their local market, we try to help as much as possible. Currently, I did see a question in the chat about how many in Canada. Currently, our trademark is only for use within the United States. However, we are wanting to team up with other maybe Indigenous retailers, our First Nations restaurants, chefs, to kind of try to figure out what this Indigenous to Indigenous trade looks like, so we can elevate each other's ag endeavors.
As we think about our questions that I know we want to pose to our guests, I just want to thank you both, Letitia and Tommy, for this interesting information. And somebody just said, yes, it's awesome. It is awesome. It's so seldom that you see such a well thought out program that looks at all different segments of the needs of your producers and marketers. So you do cover issues like access to capital and product development with your, I know that you have technical assistance that you can provide to producers, certification programming, which I think is really vital, market development and market promotion, as well as a very considerable opportunity for networking and access to expertise that you offer. It's a real credit that you're able to pull these figures out and explain, the value of the industry throughout the States and what you have to offer. It's so very well organized. And we look in Canada, there is tremendous things happening, no question, among Indigenous people in the agriculture sector, but not to the same level of organization and on an industry-wide basis as you have it in the States. So I'm hoping that there will be some questions from some of the audience on what that could look like or how you get started, and it might serve as a bit of an incentive for us to explore these kinds of development opportunities. So I saw there was one question there, what exactly is regenerative agriculture? I guess that's a good question for you, Tommy.
So regenerative agriculture by definition is the health of the living soil, but then it goes beyond that and the health of the animals on the soil, the farmers or ranchers or people on top of the soil, and then we in the community itself. So it's the measuring of the health of the entire ecosystem, and which I think was inherent in a lot of our producers' mindsets already. It's just not that is just the new term that has been taken by the everyday consumer, which we agree with the definition of regenerative agriculture. So we've attached ourselves to it.
Great, and thank you for that. And I'm seeing lots of hands going up here. I'm not sure who was first, but we'll turn first to Jacqueline Corbett.
Thank you very much for the presentation. You can hear me all right?
Sure can.
So I'm a professor at Université Laval in Quebec City. I'm in the School of Business, and particularly my area of expertise is in information systems. So I have kind of two questions. One is, first of all, you mentioned the pandemic. What's the extent of digital technologies or the use of technologies to support producers in the agricultural field? Is that part of what's going on? And then second, more broadly, where can researchers help in these initiatives?
So I can take a stab at it, and then Latasha, because the digital affects now every part of the supply chain. So you have in Indian country, or what we call Indian country in the United States, you have areas that don't even have access to everyday internet. So that just digital tool can provide resources and help in that area. And then we have producers that are going even further that with digital tools that actually capture how much carbon intake they do, what is happening with their land, it maps their rangelands out to be able to tell what's happening in different parts of the land throughout the year, whether they're grazing or their crop rotations. So the digital side of things is actually advancing very rapidly in agriculture, and I do think it is a tool and a value we can use. And then also on the e-commerce side, which Latasha can talk about.
Right. I think that is an important point to take away, is that there is a digital divide between some of our rural tribal communities and maybe more of the urban metro areas. We saw that especially in the pandemic, where we were trying to host virtual listening sessions, virtual technical support as we were all kind of social distancing. And that kind of left a lot of our very rural communities out of that technical support. So we're really trying to find a mix of what will work in this new digital age. But absolutely, we're really advocating for more digital or broadband introduction into those tribal communities that might not have access to Wi-Fi or even cell phone service. So there's no like Facebook hill where people can run up to a hill and get reception and browse Facebook. But we're really trying to vocalize that in our advocacy work. And then we are using e-commerce on the daily. A lot of our producers have incorporated that into their strategy. We ourselves have also launched kind of a e-commerce setup, but we really have pushed that on producers to kind of develop a marketplace where they can make those transactions or even just drop ship directly to consumers, our customers. And then the other aspect of like working with universities, I think we're always looking to develop relationships with researchers. We have a great relationship with the University of Montana's Food and Development Incubator Program. They have fellow researchers that help with research into traditional foods, the nutrition, like the traditional nutritional aspect of it all. And then also just product development, trying to create healthy products that are kind of utilizing more traditional or even just organic type of ingredients rather than relying on kind of the non-healthier ingredients. So yeah, we're always building relationships in that area. And I think we also work with land grant universities to try to help kind of support researchers and what is it? I think we also have like scholarships in certain areas, but yeah, that kind of sums it up. I'm not sure, Tommy, if you want to share kind of on the land grant university side of things.
Well, I do know that one of the greatest tools is actually our traditional knowledge that our Indigenous people have. And I've seen that with a professor there, her name is Linda Blackout, and she's able to be a professor in a university in North Dakota. And she's just backing our traditional knowledge with university research when it comes to our health and our traditional plants and medicines and herbs and stuff like that. So some of her examples of where she's able to tie her traditional knowledge along with the university research. And it's a great tool. It's also a great tool in the marketing side of things, because now we have actual research to back what our claims in a way.
Great. Thank you for the question, Jacqueline. Yeah, thumbs up. And I see Andrew, is it Hammermeese or Hammermice? Hammermeese, is it?
Hammermeister. That's cut on.
Hammermeister. Okay, it wouldn't fit on all the screen rather.
Great.
So Andrew, what's your question?
Thank you very much, both of you, for your great presentation. I'm a professor at Dalhousie University, and I'm also the director of the Organic Agriculture Centre of Canada. And what we do is coordinate the national science program for organic agriculture in the country in collaboration with the Organic Federation of Canada. And we do some teaching and training in organic and work as well. So I noticed that you've moved towards the regenerative designation in your product and your branding and marketing. And in organic agriculture, I've always been thinking that how organic is very dependent upon biodiversity and ecological relationships within ecosystems and understanding how all of the components interact. And I have always felt that that Indigenous agriculture would naturally fit very well with organic agriculture based on those values and in terms of trying to protect some of those natural ecosystem processes and biodiversity. So I'm interested in, and I know you've gone the regenerative kind of route, but you've mentioned organic a few times. And so I'm just kind of wondering, just how does organic fit into your marketing program? And do you have both organic and regenerative lines? Is it double certifying, or, and how do we best engage Indigenous people to support more organic agriculture and taking advantage of that opportunity? Thank you.
So in the United States, the U.S. Department of Agriculture took organic certification, I think about 2 decades ago. They're not before our American Indian trademark, they're kind of right after that, I think. But so US already has that organic trademark, and it's kind of, got lost in the shuffle, and it's very commercialized. Great. And a lot of our producers actually apply for organic, because you can have organic on that symbol, USDA organic, which is a great certification process, along with our trademark, the American made or produced by American Indian, and the region nation seal and pledge as well. So it's something you can just, kind of like a sponsorship t-shirt, just throw them all on there. And we would support that. A lot of our producers do USDA organic. And I guess right now in the United States, organic kind of stops at right there, the inputs and outputs of agriculture, where the regenerative takes in, like you said, the whole ecosystem, just like you explained. So it's kind of taking it a step further in how you interact with, the soil, the land, the crop, the animals, the producer, and the community itself. So, and that's not just happening with us. It's kind of happening on a whole United States is taken, trying to push further than organic and stuff like that, and find different ways to market and different. So we just wanted to make sure that our voices and our traditional stories were not lost in the mix.
I totally want to just echo what Tommy had mentioned. I think a lot of our producers too, when they read the organic standards, some of it might not fall in place with our, just our producers that are practicing traditional ecological knowledge. And so this is just a way that we can say, yes, hey, we're the first land stewards, and we farm and take care of our ecosystem in this traditional, utilizing traditional or indigenous roots.
And I've lost who's in the queue here for questions, but there was a gentleman there, and it looked like a passus, and I'm not sure if the A was his first name or passus was the last name exactly, but I'm sure you know from your label or your moniker there who we're calling upon here now to pose the next question.
It's Apasis.
Apostles, okay.
It's my native, my Indian name, I guess, that I received.
Great.
Okay, Idamax Ganak Dononi. Good morning. I am from Red Crow Community College. I'm the program coordinator for the agriculture program here at Red Crow College. I guess looking at what we're doing is just right along the lines of what everyone here has kind of talked about. Regenerative agriculture. My first interpretation was doing those farming or ranching practices that are conducive to long-term sustainability of the environment you work in, but just wrapped in a different term, I guess. I've been down to your Vegas conference, met a lot of good people. Here at Red Crow College, we're starting a research committee and looking at organic fertilizers and organic food production. We have a community garden. We have the infrastructure in equipment, irrigation. We just recently built a root cellar and are looking to start a college farm. We do have in the initiative that's kind of what the Browning and the Blackfeet, they have a really big herd. We just started last year. I think we have 20 yearlings, and that one herd will be for cultural purposes. We're looking at developing a commercial herd. And in the fall, we're actually going to have Mitsitapi livestock production programming. And it's not looking at I guess the intensive side of agriculture. We do not want to duplicate what they're doing out there. We want to address our own needs and concerns as what it means to be Natsitapi. It's our culture is holistic. It keeps everything in mind. So I think when you talk about regenerative, you're talking about the community as well. That's what I think is really long term. I can't say too much about the importance, but it's very, very detrimental to have the community behind these efforts that we're trying to make. As far as taking over our own food production. For myself, I don't really know what's going to happen in the future, but I know what I can see right now in the spring. I know we have the ability to slaughter our own animals. So that piece is kind of somewhat okay with me. But just the turmoil going on in the world right now. It's really unsettling. And I think with any challenges, there's opportunities to develop, I guess, new markets. The other conference I went to was Agribition. That was in Regina. And it was actually supposed to, the Governor General, Mary Simon, an Indigenous person herself, had attended, and we heard some really great works going on in that area of Treaty 4 and 6 here in Canada and what they're doing. We also met with Melissa Artan, who is a soil scientist from the University of Saskatchewan. She did a guest lecture for our professionals and managers. Not to say that I'm getting old, I might be retiring. I think I still got time, but just to speed this along, what are the plans for Intertribal to be working with Canada's First Nations in your marketing? Is there any, or?
Well, I really appreciate you sharing your experience on the ground and the realities that you are facing. First, I just wanted to echo again, like you mentioned, the community is absolutely important when investing in just enhancing the natural resources and regenerative longevity. We also see it in our area when we were talking about regenerative agriculture. We see it as this circular movement where we do need producers, customers, consumers, community members to all support and work together to ensure that their resources are managed and they have more of that land stewardship kind of hold on their management aspect of things. But right now, currently, because our program is funded through USDA, we are unable to market and promote Canadian products under the trademark, and our trademark is registered under the US Patent Office. However, we want to create this Indigenous to Indigenous dialogue. We want to continue to support other producers internationally and in Canada to figure out how we can support each other, whether you're wanting to adapt, I don't know, certain regenerative practices, or you're wanting to learn more about seed keeping or any of that. We have producers that we could introduce you to. Our whole programming is kind of striving for this peer-to-peer mentorship. So if you do have questions about certain things, like I feel like you could always reach out, and we really appreciate that you attend those December annual conferences. And during that time, like perhaps we can figure out when you can speak to our TAs up in that area where there are boundary lines. But yeah, I just would love to figure out what that would look like, and whatever you need support in, just feel free to reach out and we can find out how best we can help.
That's great. And I'm conscious of our time. Time is always our biggest enemy. But I appreciate those questions and the information that was provided. And Sarah Daniels, you had a question as well that we've got about a few moments to ask.
Yeah, thank you so much. This has been really insightful and informative. I really appreciate all of the great information you've shared today. I represent a company called FCC, or Farm Credit Canada. We're a financial institution here in Canada, and we're focused really on agriculture and food production and supporting businesses in that space. And so you're speaking right to our hearts on what we could do in partnership with you maybe, and potentially building off of some of the great work that you've done. I actually have 3 questions, and I know we're really short on time, so we can absolutely follow up outside of this if it makes the most sense. But but I'll pose them anyways. The first question I'm curious about is you'd mentioned the support that you provide everywhere from, you know, product development to helping with logos or brochures and certification. And I was just curious about how do you resource and support that big breadth of offerings? The second question is around your capital support that you provide. If you could shed some light on to like, what are the biggest needs or opportunities that you see in the capital that you provide in the support through financing? And then third, I was just curious about how, I think Craig, you mentioned it as you alluded into the transition, but how did you come to be, how did you get this strong trademark directory built up? How did you find these market opportunities and these companies that needed the support? Just as we look to supporting the industry here in Canada, what are some things that we could learn from you from that kind of understanding the market?
So Letitia and Tony, that's a lot to answer, but if you could just sort of touch on, those are great questions on the resource, the capital, and the directory. So if you could just sort of speak to that in four minutes or so, that'd be helpful.
Yeah, I can quickly answer question number 2 first, with
Sure.
access to capital piece. So in the United States and in agriculture in general, it's very hard to get any sort of financing, you know, capital. And then in Indian country, in the United States, it's even harder. There's always a lack of credit to begin with, and then there's predatory lending because of the lack of credit, stuff like that. So our technical assistants individually help with what they can at a USDA level, which in the United States, we have a farm service agency that has a loan program, and our individual technical assistants actually help with that process. And then that wasn't, you know, quite getting the job done. Not everyone qualifies. Egg lending is not really, you know, set up for not set up for agriculture in general, let alone for Indian country where things are always a little different, especially here in the United States. So IAC took upon themselves to put the money in to create our own. And what happened was a CDFI was created. It's called a Community Development Financing Institution that is called Occupton, which is a code word for when a community comes together. They're a individually owned nonprofit now. They operate on their own, but it came from the idea of IAC that we need access to capital. And that CDFI, which I would give you information to, has a great way of investing in agriculture instead of lending to agriculture, looking at the bigger picture, looking at producers' equity and wealth, building up their wealth. So they're not relying on credit. Always, you know, agriculture is always behind the ball. We're always needing money when we are, you know, ready to input a new crop or the calves are already on the ground, stuff like that. So the way they look at it and the way that they lend is kind of a new lens. So I can send you information on them specifically. And that's my answer.
Yeah,
That's
and
good. And comments on the directory and the certified foods, and you've had great success with that. I think you've got over 500 foods certified. Do you not, Letitia?
Yeah. Currently, there have been in the past 500 producers that were actively involved with trademark usage. And that seems to be continuing to grow as new entrepreneurs are added to the directory. So the way we market is, again, just working directly with the people in our network, our partners, distributors that are supporting BIPOC communities or just entrepreneurs in that area. So yeah, we really invest our time and effort into education and outreach, and that's the only way we can build our network space as well. How do we deploy our support? We provide one-on-one technical assistance specialists, our technical assistance type of support, and producers reach out, and we try to we want to be there for them, especially when they're trying to jump over all of the different barriers they're already experiencing. So it's important that we are reactive and really supportive in finding solutions. One of the cool things about the Occupton or the native CDFI, it's the only native CDFI that is geared towards Indian agriculture. So they are a valued partner in a lot of our producers' issues with access to finance or lending or trying to build their financial or the capital. So they are huge because that's a huge hurdle that a lot of our producers are trying to jump over. So yeah, hopefully that answers in a gist.
I think we got 2 out of the 3 questions there, more or less. Thank you, Sarah. And Kelly Lindsay, you had some questions, comments as well.
Well, I think as part of the conclusion and wind up, first of all, I want to say thank you. Sorry, Letitia and Tommy, I was late, had technical difficulties, but thank you so much. And folks, you need to know that when we first met, as we started doing this work, when we first spoke, we were just blown away the fact that they've been doing this since 2003. And you can see that the leadership that Letitia and Tommy and their crew are bringing across America, they're way ahead of Canada. And so they became luminary partners to say, how could we expand this through North America? How can we market foods to the world? So they are very keen to see how to grow this. And then a month ago, I was talking on the call with Tommy, and she said, I was saying I'm going to Phoenix. She said, well, there's the Southwest Indian Ag Conference in Phoenix. So guess where I was last week? I was at the Ag Conference. And look at who I sat with at dinner. Skaya from Apican. This is, folks, Canadians think of Apican like NACA, National Aboriginal Capital Corporations, and the Aboriginal Financial Institutions. They loan money and they're like the Indian Equity Foundation. So great work, great things. They have, I think, Letitia and Tommy, 12 districts through America. They're organized. They run, of course, these conferences. They're looking at the lending, the branding, the retailers. So in terms of us getting organized in Canada, there's lots to do in this area. We're not organized in the agriculture area in terms of retailers and producers, but it sure is nice to have friends down south that we can model, we can follow in your footsteps, and then hopefully together through this research agenda and where Jacqueline was going is maybe we can open up new doors to international food opportunities. And I know we're going to welcome you to Canada. You're going to come up to Montreal. If any of you are going to the food show in Montreal, they'll be there. So make a point. I got to tell you, when I walked around the trade show at the Southwest Indian Ag Conference, I had a chance to sit with Padgley. Padgley is one of the coordinators that works for Indian Ag. And I think it was Gila River Nation, I'm not sure. One of them is actually marketing in olive oil. So they're taking the very best of Italian olive oils and they've got an olive oil farm ranch going. So really, really diverse. I think that where Jacqueline was going with her question is there's some research we could be doing on the new crops and the pulse crops of the future and the foodstuffs. So we just want to say thank you from all of us for sharing, and I think opening the doors to literally growing new opportunities. So thank you very, very much, and we'll be in touch.
Yes, and I'll mention as well that as many of you know and have already signed up, there's a second webinar on this subject on April 13th, about the same time. And Letitia and Tommy are going to bring some guests along as well. So we'll have a chance to learn more about the organization and the great work they're doing. So thank you folks very, very much for attending today. We'll make this recording available to everyone and send it out. And in the meantime, enjoy the rest of your day there.